I will go to ask you questions that has been, together with the coordinators, has been developed. And afterwards, participants can ask their questions. You can fill your questions in the box, in the chat box below. And then later on, when we are done with our already prepared questions, we will go through your questions. And please don't forget indicating whom you are addressing your question. So the first question we are going to discuss is, this first question I will ask everyone. Maybe we can start with Dr. Rousset. What are the most important challenges at your country or at your university institution, which is more comfortable, you feel you can answer institution or the country, regarding the third cycle higher education?
Yeah, thank you very much for this first question. I will answer at the national level, not at my university level. In France, I can see two key issues. First of all, to my mind, the main issue is the professionalization of doctors. I mean, a lot of doctors would like to begin academic career, but there's not enough possibilities for all the doctors who want to become a teacher researcher. And if they don't have the possibility effectively of beginning an academic career, their integration into the job market is really difficult, especially in the social sciences and humanities. It's less true for hard sciences, biology, for example. It means that the doctorate must therefore no longer be just an academic tool, but also a professional tool. It's really, really important in France for us. The second key issue is the founding of the thesis. The founding is an increasingly important question since founding is increasingly rare, while it's more and more required to be able to register. 2 days before, we talked about the public foundings and the private foundings. As I said, the different kind of foundings are every day more rare, but every day more wanted and asked to be able to register. So it's a second key issue. If I answer you really briefly, it was the 2 points I wanted to talk about.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Rousset. And I just will ask you that why it is difficult to find an academic job, because you have many graduates, or the number is too huge, or what's the problem?
It's above, in fact. You have each day more doctors who want to become teacher researcher, because it's really a fantastic job, in fact, to my mind. But each day also there's a less job offered in the academic career, and each day it's more difficult to pass all the competitive steps who have to be done. So it's a double movement: more ask, more demands, and less offer. So in this fact, it's really harder than before. It was, in fact, it was always hard, but each day it's harder.
And regarding the funding, you were mentioning that is funding decreasing, therefore it gets more difficult to get the funds, or what's the problem in this?
Yeah, in fact, if you would like to have a public funding, what I was talking about 2 days before, it's doctoral contracts, because we have a lot of PhD candidates. It's really competitive to obtain a doctoral contract. And now, if you don't have a doctoral contract, it's not easy to obtain private fundings. It means that you have the theoretical possibility to begin a PhD program without specific fundings. Maybe if you have parents who have a family who have enough money to help you, no problem. But it's each day harder because you have to be involved in the courses, in the article redaction, in the thesis preparation. So you don't have enough time to have a job, to found your thesis. So if you don't have public or private funding, it's really hard to begin the PhD program. And if you want to candidate to the private or public fundings, it's really competitive. Each day more competitive than the day before.
Just a short question is, if I understood correctly, but not the funds are decreased, but the demand is increased, therefore the funds are...
The both. In fact, it is the same than the first key issue, as more demand and less offer.
Okay, thank you so much. And Dr. Silva? Dr. Silva? Cristina Silva? Okay.
Sorry, I'm here. I'm here. I was not realizing that I have the micro off. Yes.
I'm going to ask that challenges at your institution or at, in your country on doctoral education.
Yeah. The challenges are very similar to those explained for France. Also, one of the big challenges is the financing. Some years ago, the government was financing a lot and promoting PhD studies, so it was relatively easier to get funds. But nowadays, it is similar to France. The funding is reducing and the number of candidates is larger. So we try to get funds from, so we have the national agency, and we also try to get recently also professors can get research projects, and they under these projects some grants. But yes, it is a challenge for the institutions to get the funds for the candidates. In terms, for example, of internationalization, I receive a lot of good applications from foreign students who want to come to Portugal, to our institution. But yes, the problem is to get the funds to promote the hosting of these candidates.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. Oh, sorry. You can continue. I'm sorry for interrupting you.
Yeah, I was going. We have another challenge. I was coordinating with my colleague Paula Castro. I can pass to her because she can speak about the other challenge that we also have.
Thank you so much. And if Paula Castro, Dr. Castro, if you have something to add, please.
Thank you. I don't know if I'm unmuted.
No, you are okay. Okay.
Wait, I am muted.
No, I'm listening to you.
Oh, you are? Okay, sorry, I thought I was muted. Okay, thank you. Speaking at a national level, actually of the country, one of our challenges is also the link between the doctorate holder, so you get a PhD, and then the labor market. Most of our PhD holders go into the education sector, educational higher education, or into the research sector, and we need to align this better with a stimulation of the doctoral employment in the business sector and the industry. This is something that at a national level, even if we're thinking of a knowledge-based country, we need to increase, and that starts with building relations during the doctoral education. It's not that doctoral education should be tailor-made just for the labor market, at least I do not believe in that, more on the knowledge itself is the driver of the innovation. But one of the challenges is even during the education, we get hold of a higher connection with the labor market. We did try that in terms of even having a special type of grants for a few years, which were called designated as PhD in the companies, which was shared between universities and companies. That was an initiative of our national foundation, but it only lasted for a few years. It actually stopped 3 or 4 years ago, I think. And it was an attempt to do that. I can't really say why that did not extend further, but if we try to stimulate within each institutions, there are, maybe later we can discuss some of the things that are being done in national-wise. Maybe it's, we have more financing, private financing, everything goes together to get this more funding for the PhDs. But there is this challenge of the doctorate degree and the labor market. If I do this in brief, I would say that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I will ask Dr. Targamadze, what about your country? And then I will ask another question. Maybe I can ask together, just in order that you will answer both questions. Why doctoral degree is needed outside of the academic life, in a way, in a professional career in those countries, as far as you were mentioning that it's a professionalization, for instance, France mentioned, professionalization of the doctoral education. Why it is necessary for other career than academic career?
It is not necessary. It depends of the field and field of interest. In labor market, higher salary, and it is pity. But I would like to stress a little bit our challenges. We have a lot of challenges, and for example, we have we need to develop some perspective and stronger scientific consortium, more school of research to develop closer collaboration, science with business, industry, etc. Quality of doctoral studies and problems of establishing joint doctoral studies with foreign institutions. We have very high requirements for member of the board of science, and it is very important to attract young people in science. There must be general change, very low salary, but we are making some steps to this link, and I hope that will be okay. And it is necessary doctoral degree outside. I don't know why you are asking about it. Yes, it is prestige, but you can apply to in labor market.
Yeah, I'm asking this question because in a way that we were mentioning that demand is increasing and the funds are decreasing, but not many people are getting job in academic career, so they are going to the other career in this case. Why in this? Why to choose PhD? Why to have a certain level education? As far as you know that you will not find a job, therefore I am asking. That was the reason. But
it is a lot of reason. I think one of reason they are interested in this field, for example, in education sciences or in informatics technology or another field. We have very good salary. It is about 800 euro per month.
Does it?
It is very important reason.
But does it link the doctoral education in a way? If the master degree is not enough, the master degree will not give that good salary. So they need to obtain a certain level education in order to get higher salary. or just the field itself is good for having a higher salary?
I would like to explain. Scholarship, 830, it is very high scholarship. Per month, it is like teacher expert. It is high scholarship, and it is important reason to come and to study. But I think that it is more and stronger reason they are interested in this field, and when you finished, you will work at university or institute, you don't have good salary.
Okay, thank you. And Dr. Pittia, what about your country or institution, and also
yes.
Why the doctoral education is needed?
Yes, a good question. I mean, I don't want to spend too much time in the issues, the challenges, because actually are the same already presented by Guillaume and Cristina, so the France and the Portugal situation. One aspect that I would like to highlight are the competencies. At the moment, they are very broad. And actually, based on the job market requirements that we have, they are very general. So I think that a challenge for not only for Italy, but for the doctoral studies is to try to differentiate careers within this third level of education. The other aspect are the funds for the PhDs. This is another issue because as I was mentioning last day, actually we have a strong decrease of the grants in Italy since 2013, and this means less people with PhD. PhD is an important degree for who would like to continue the career in the academic sector, but on the other side is not enough. This is something. So it depends. The role of the PhD is, in my opinion, and this is an opinion, a growing opinion in Italy. It has some value. It has an added value because somehow the graduates, the doctorates get extra competencies in projecting, in writing, and this is important more and more for companies because they are invited to be partners in projects, for instance, and this allows them to invest also in this kind of activities. So it's more and more required, especially this kind of degree, for companies that recognize the value of the doctoral experience competencies.
Okay, thank you so much. And I will move to the second question. As you know, in our country, we are going to reform doctoral education, and we face several challenges regarding to that. And one of these challenges is a quality of candidate of science degree. Therefore, we have two degrees in third cycle of higher education. Those are candidate of science and the doctorate. And we want to merge them together and to increase the requirements for the candidate of science and to have just one degree in that level of higher education, third level of higher education. In some of your countries, you still have a PhD and keep a requirement for habilitation, although in many cases, this requirement of habilitation is not really playing a role in academic career, although you have, but in some of the countries, especially in those which has been former Soviet countries, those they get rid of doctorate, the second doctorate, or in European countries they get rid also from the habilitation. For instance, in Germany, they do not anymore use the habilitation, but they still have in some of the lända, they have a requirement of doing the habilitation. My question is, could you just, especially I would like to ask Dr. Targamadze, how will you evaluate that merging of these 2 degrees?
Oh, it is very difficult question. Thank you. No, we don't have now 2nd degree, and in another hand, it is better. It is easier to make a career, but in another hand, the 2nd scientific work was quite significant from a scientific point of view. And my point of view, however, the 2nd academic degree is required. It requires systematic research and high level of scientific work. And I think you need to think about rehabilitated doctor. It is important to have. It is my opinion, but in my country was another decision.
And as I understood from your opinion, that you are not very much satisfied with that.
Yes. No, maybe I am a rehabilitated doctor and I am not satisfied, but you know, if seriously, it is better to have 2 degrees. It is my opinion, and we discussing with some colleagues, it is better. Do you know, if you want to be rehabilitator doctor, you must to write another scientific work and to make very deeply research, and it is systematical research, and it is better when you will collect some articles on some certificate researches and you will be professor. I think that is better 2 degrees. It is my opinion.
I ask from the other side in a way that what about the 1st degree now? You have only 1 degree now, and you had the 1st and the 2nd doctorate previously, and now what about the quality of this 1 degree compared with the 1st 2-tier degree? If you compare with that one, for instance, like candidate of science we have, if I compare with this joint degree which we will have, I want to increase the quality of that. Did you increase the quality of that 1st if you compare with this now 1 level, 1 tier quality?
You asking me?
Yeah. Was it clear?
It is, do you know, it is very difficult to compare. It depends of the research, on the field of research, but I can compare with candidate. I am member of education and psychology board in Kazakhstan, in Abai University, and then can compare quality. 2nd doctor degree quality is more better, and doctoral degree, it is higher quality as candidate. We have another parameters, criteria.
Okay, thank you so much. I will ask also Dr. Rousset, you have this habilitation, I know still, and how could you evaluate that if you are satisfied or you need that habilitation in reality?
Just a precision, when you talk about habilitation, you mean habilitation to become a professor or habilitation to supervise thesis when you are a professor?
To become a professor. I mean, this,
okay.
Just
for sure. In fact, we still have this qualification requirement in France, but in other manner. In fact, there's a lot of requirements. There is requirement to enter a doctorate and then to become a doctor, sure. But not all doctors become teacher in an academic way, as the doctor must first pass a very demanding competition. Then he has to be recruited by one university, then he has to pass, or he or she, sure, has to pass an authorization to supervise thesis. So there are a lot of steps of requirements, but if I focus on the habilitation for becoming teacher researcher, as I said before, it's really, really competitive. I think it's useful. I think it's relevant to have these requirements, but it's sometimes not in adequation with the professional needs. I mean, sometimes during the maybe the interview for becoming a teacher researcher in one university, you will ask one kind of what can you think about maybe a scientific point. For sure, it's interesting, but you're not only researcher, you're also a teacher. So it's absolutely useful to have requirement to become teacher researcher, but it could be interesting to think about the better manner to recruit teacher researcher, because sometimes the manner to recruit is too theoretical and not enough practical.
Okay, thank you so much. I will move to the other question in order that to leave more time for the participants to ask questions too. In Armenia, you know that scientific institutes and the universities are operating separately, and universities provide mainly only education with very little research, whereas institutes are research centers, they are research oriented. We are thinking the ways for those two institutions to collaborate or to merge. It depends how they would like to collaborate. We could see resistance from the side of institutes. We also know that from our neighbor Georgia's experience, this has to be done very delicately in order to not diminish the role of the research institutes, because that is the reason, that is mainly the reason of the resistance coming from the institutes. And we want to, just vice versa, we want to increase the university's role, university's quality by merging or forcing them to collaborate. I will start with Dr. Castro. Could you just give advice? How shall we do this merging? If you have any opinion, if not, then I move somebody else.
Okay, thank you. More than an opinion, I'll give you the situation we have in Portugal. So we have the academia are those that grant the PhD, the PhD degrees, the doctorate degrees. But we do have research and academia very much connected. So we have the universities, and for our examples, for example, in our institution, our research center, you must have research center, is within the same premises. For others, it could be sometimes you have the university and then research centers are somewhere else, but still all the professors, all the staff that works at university, most of them are assigned to a research center. And when I even see a benefit when this is within the same premises, because there is, for us, there is a win-win relation, benefits from the educational side, not only on the third cycle, but on the first and second cycles that benefit from being in a research environment, but also this gives a very good chance for people that are doing their doctorates also to be involved in education for the lower cycle degrees. So we cannot, at least here in Portugal, we have autonomous research centers that are all within the same body at higher level. But then you can have a research center when more than university collaborate. Or you have people from the same university assigned to different research centers. But there is no distinction between, there is no such a thing between the research and the education. I mean, the things are very, very much connected. And I think there is really a benefit from it. So, but still, research centers are not autonomous to provide PhD degrees, doctorate degrees. It's all at universities, but there could be a research center that is not at university, but then there is someone at university that is providing the link. Most of people that are on the research centers are at university anyway.
Thank you. Dr. Targamadze, I want to ask you, because you went through this also, and would like your advice, where we have to be careful, what we shouldn't be missing on the way doing that.
Okay, I think that it depends. It is very difficult question. It depends on the tradition, attitudes, competence of scientists, goals of state, etc. Maybe it is possible to create networks of researchers to focus on research issues. Maybe create research centers, high quality or excellent quality research centers. For example, I am representative of educational sciences. We have a Lithuanian Educational Research Association and is divided into committees. I am chair of Education Management and Leaders Committee, and our organization is part of World Organization, and we model some projects. We together model some projects, research, and we are invited doctoral students. It is very important for us, and for doctoral students it is useful. But I want to warn for bureaucracy. They want always to control, and they can change the requirements, and it is possible to fall into the trap. Do you know? Bureaucracy, it is bureaucracy.
Okay, thank you. And I will move to the other question now, that regarding the state funding, I would like to learn about funding criteria, if you have such a criteria for universities, if the funding is, universities are funded according to the applications, or they receive a block grant, or how PhD education is funded by state at your universities. I will ask that to Dr. Silva.
So, in terms of, are you listening to me?
Yes.
So the funding is always based on the quality, and the quality, so depends if it's individual grants, so the candidate makes an application already to a given institution and a given supervisors, and there are mainly three parameters. The main one is the candidate CV and merit, and the other ones is the conditions of hosting the PhD. So it will count if we are, for example, like we are a research center of excellence. So the conditions to do this research work, and also the quality of the supervision. So the CV of the supervisor or supervisors. For example, if there are two supervisors, if they have similar expertise, this can be a negative point. So if there are two supervisors, they should have to complement expertise. So this in terms of individual grants. Then the institution also, not every year, but sometimes we have possibility to apply as an institution to get funds for PhD programs. Again, is the quality of the institution. So they will evaluate the research center that is associated to the university. They will evaluate also the quality of the research staff that can supervise this thesis. So it's never we have funds without having
So you get
demonstrating the quality of the institution, and it's a very competitive fund.
So you get the state funds according to the performance.
Yes, yes, and it's very competitive. So we have to demonstrate also number of publications. Also the candidates, when it's individual grants, they have to have very high classification. You know, in our system, the classification, for example, is from 1 to 20. So they have to have a grant immediately after finishing the master degree, a minimum of 17 in 20. If they don't have this, they have to have done some research in advance and have at least 1-2 publications. So if there are no publications and the classification is lower than 60, than 17, it's very hard to have the grant immediately after finishing the degree. Excellent students or good students who did the master and they manage to have a publication, yes, they can have. But if there is no publication, it's very difficult to get a grant with a lower classification than 17 in 20.
More clarification on that. Just you were mentioning two different procedures in a way that you get funds from the state by performance, according to the performance. And on the other side, you also mentioned that students apply, they get grants. Grants students get from university or they apply to the ministry? Or
they apply to our national foundation. We have a research foundation. It comes from the government. And this is the majority of the PhD students. They apply annually to this call, and yes, and these government funds.
They get this fund.
Then we have other funds, like for example Marie Curie, but it's a limited number. So some professors sometimes they have an European research project, and they manage to pay the fees of these PhD students. But the majority, yes, it's individual grants from the national agency.
And what you were mentioning also that performance-based funding, what covers this performance-based funding that you get from the state, if not the scholarships? So students are applying for these national funds, they get for study, PhD, but still university gets performance-based for PhD, performance-based funds from the government, right?
I'm not sure if I understood you well, the question. So we have individual grants that the student applies to this national agency, and there are also programs where the institution applies also to the same agency, and we get a given number of grants. Like, for example, this year we are going to have 6 grants, PhD grants, that were given to the research centers who got excellent in their evaluation. So at the moment, the research centers are being, there is a procedure where the research centers get to be evaluated, and if they got excellent, they got the extra funding for 6 grants. Then there must be an open call, also based on quality of the candidates. So we define the criteria, and then there will be a public call, and again based on the quality of the candidates. And the money came to the research center based on the quality of the research center. But these ones, we have the autonomy to select the candidates. Yeah.
So there are two different tracks, and both
Yeah.
are. Thank you so much. And I will ask another question is about what are the incentives for the industry to finance doctoral education and scientific research in your country? Are there any tax exceptions or any other incentives for funding scientific research or doctorate students? And maybe we will ask to Dr. Pittia to answer.
Very much. As regards the industry, doctorates, actually in Italy has been rather pushed this opportunity as a way to collaborate with industries. So actually since a few years, we have a different level of interaction with industries, just to promote the collaboration with industry. Also to get the funds from industry, but actually we have at least 3 levels of collaboration with industry, and one allows the doctoral institutions to have somehow doctoral students being at the same time employees of the company. So they are actually doing doctorate while they are working in the company. In this way, there is an agreement behind, and there are also the industry gives some funds. Then there are specific opportunities where, based on national programs, they support the PhD, the industrial doctorates. And for these, industries are rather interested, because in this case they don't have to fund, but actually they find the way to collaborate with academia, and they get the funds to carry out a part of the research. And actually companies, in some cases, according to some rules and laws, they have also incentives to collaborate with university. They have a tax exemptions, and this is somehow again supporting this second route of development of the doctoral degree programs. So we try somehow to support this kind of interaction, and we give a good value to this. The only point that has to be arisen here is that whenever you get money from industry, obviously the research is based on the private company, and you are not free to do the research that you like. And this is the only concern that needs to be taken into account.
Okay, thank you so much. I would like to ask the same question to Dr. Rousset, the French case, but as far as we are running out of the time, I will leave that afterwards, but I will ask Dr. Tatevik to ask his question first, and then maybe I will go back to ask the question. Please, Dr. Tatevik.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. So I have a question about how you fund the project, the research project of the PhD student. I mean, because you were talking mostly about a stipend for the candidate, but right now many research, especially in the public health, require a lot of expenses in terms of analysis of the environmental factors like heavy metals, contaminants, or experimental work with the animals. So how you deal with this? First, you have to apply for the project, to have the project, and then to announce the call for the students, or how you do this?
May I answer?
Yeah.
Yeah, so in our case, when supervisor has a candidate to apply, the topic, it goes to the scientific committee meeting, and he has to prove that he has the funds to cover the experimental work. So there should be some funds from other projects or from the research center. Yeah, but this is also a challenge. Not only the grant to the student, they pay fees, but many times these fees are not enough to cover the very expensive research work. So professors who carry out projects that are very expensive, they have to find somehow sources to cover these expenses.
Thanks. But what is normal amount of the project granted by the state committee or other sources, and what the length of this project? Because in Armenia we have very, very limited. For example, the most available projects are granted by the state committee of the science.
Dr. Tatevik, your voice is interrupted.
2 years maximum length, and the maximum amount is about 35. That's my concern of my video, maybe it will be better. So the maximum amount of money we have for our research is about $35,000, from which 80% is salary. We can't spend for equipment, for example. And two years length of the project. But the normal length of the PhD study is 3 years. So we have this proportion between. That's why I wonder how you do with these things. You have longer period for grant, more money, whatever.
Can I say something just to complement? I mean, we have the same situation than in Portugal. Obviously, the responsible for the project, who is also the tutor, has to guarantee the money, the funds for all the PhD. And the amount of the money which is required for a specific project and doctoral study depends on the sector. Obviously, the scientific are the more expensive ones. There are others which are less expensive. So actually, it depends on the sector, the amount of money that the project requires. On the other side, as regards our experience in Italy, we know that we get from the ministry a certain amount which is fixed for a PhD, for a specific PhD grant. And that takes into account both the salary and, let's say, some lab, but more than lab are just few money for traveling or publications. So what is more important is the funds for the project, and it depends on the type of the project. You can also spend anything if you just do, I mean, if you read the references or you have to go to a library.
Okay, thank you, thank you.
Yeah, maybe I can add that if you are a tutor and you don't have for the moment a project with a lot of funds, you have to adapt the topics you propose. Can be, for example, modeling work, and then you just need a computer and not much more. So it depends if you have conditions to carry out expensive topics or not. We have to adapt. Yeah.
Thank you. We have another question from Lucine for Jan. Dr. Lucine, please, could you ask your question? Dr. Frujan, are you here? Okay, another question from Konstantin Yenokian.
I'm here, sorry.
Okay, good.
May I ask my question?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Sorry.
Lucine, go ahead. I heard that you are the first. Go ahead.
Can I ask my question?
Sure. We are waiting for your question now.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm interested in one very important question. What do you think? The curriculum we have at our institutions for doctoral education, do these curricula contribute to the quality of the processes, that is the doctoral study, and the end product? Or are we going to make changes so as to probably make it relevant to contemporary processes that are going on in our societies, as we know that doctoral education is no longer considered to be an ivory tower activity, but it includes personal, cultural, economical, political agendas, and we need a kind of a serious interinstitutional dialogue between the universities, governments, and so on, is make the research more valid and reliable for our societies. And it shouldn't be a lonely endeavor, but it should be useful for the societies. And the second question is connected with the mismatch within, between the academics, traditional higher education academics that we have, that are the supervisors at our universities, and the new student body population. The academics are trained and are used to working in the conventional traditions, but our students are new and they need new forms of the supervision. What can you offer to modify and change within our context of doctoral education so as to improve the quality of doctoral science and, of course, the quality of the end products? Thank you so much.
You want me to say something?
Yes.
I can.
Sure.
May I? Yes. So I'll just be very brief. If I understood you're speaking in general about the doctorate degrees, and the doctorate degrees are in fact within a research center or within a setting that, in our case, already is all this being taken into account, or many things being taken into account that were not in the past, like the engagement with society. One of the main one of the major criteria to evaluate our research centers is actually that we're doing something that impacts the policies at national or international levels in our the theme, the area that we are working on, and that we do that to society. And our biggest asset in a research center is no doubt the PhD students, at least for us, is a big part of the research center. So in fact, now it is already not only going to congresses or to conferences to show the technical work. So we're trying hard to give this part of the impact in society and impact on the policies a big thing. And if you are within a research center and you want to be, okay, I will give our case, is rated excellent, you do have to have this. So the PhDs are involved in that. And nowadays, also, many of the people that are supervising are quite young. Are already.
May I have also something, Paula, to complement?
Yeah, you can.
In our curriculum of the PhD, we have a course unit called seminars. These seminars run from the years of the PhD. At the end, they have to collect 10 ECTS. And this, within these 10 ECTS, there is a kind of procedure to count these ECTS, but they have to do they can do many activities, like helping on open day of the university. And in this for example, this open day of the university is when we open the doors and we receive a lot of people from outside, and students have to, we promote that they join this CTS doing this kind of activity where they have to speak to the general public and explain research. This is one example. Another example, we receive students from high schools to tell them what is research. And we promote that the students spend some hours per week receiving these young students and explaining the research and so on. So we promote this kind of activities. Some others also to help on receiving people from, for example, for industry to do an internship. So there are many activities helping on organization of an event. I would say that we really promote all these activities, and in order that the PhD graduates acquire many different competencies, and of course giving them some freedom to select which ones they prefer.
Thanks, Cristina.
Thank you. Dr.
Okay, if it's possible, I would like to add, for example, in our curriculum, it is obligatory internship abroad. It is obligatory during doctoral studies. And well-known foreign scientists are consulting our students too. We have a big collaboration with foreign universities.
Good, thank you. Any other answer?
Yes, I can say something. In Italy, as also shown by Dario in his presentation, we have 3 main boxes to fill in when we have to accredit the course, which are related to the internationalization, the interdisciplinarity, and also the societal engagement or public engagement. And actually, these are all parts that need to be taken into account in the development of the doctoral study program, I mean. And you have to demonstrate that you do it. So this means that somehow the interaction or the internship abroad is becoming something like compulsory. The interdisciplinary in the doctoral boards is suggested and also, I mean, welcome from a certain point of view. So you can observe a mix between science and medical doctorates. And students that work, I mean, doctoral students that work in different areas. And as regards the public engagement, which is the third mission of the university, I have to say that nowadays PhDs are involved, as Cristina was mentioning, nowadays are really involved in many activities of the universities, because the third mission of the university in Italy is becoming a key element for the quality and the qualification of the university in the region where it's located.
May I add the comment? Okay. Hello to everyone. Just because I've heard about an interesting question about a new kind of supervision, and I was listening also about the question about funding. So the new kind of supervision, if funding of the research, so particularly is necessary to carry on a research, it means that the supervisor is competitive at the national or international level. So this is not dependent on age. It means that the PhD is committed somehow to the research goals. And as Paula was actually saying, we have a lot of young people getting grants. So it is dependent on the people getting grants to have this nice new kind of supervision. If you link this to people having money for the project, for sure they will have modern, let's say, supervision and not the old style supervision for PhD.
Okay. It for me?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Okay, I'm not sure if I got your question right or what you were trying to ask. One of the points is that more and more, Cristina was talking about the fund that is also dependent on the 3 criteria, and one of the criteria is a supervision, and you get a grade for that. So you need to have a good grade for supervision to get the grant. What we're doing is involving the young people with a more senior supervisor to start with. So this person starts getting experience without penalizing the candidate. I've been on panels of scholarships for more than maybe 10 years, and that's the way we're doing, not to give a chance to the younger people. And then we take into account for how long the supervisor has done the PhD. If it's someone really good and has acquired PhD 5 years ago, it's going to get a good grade, even if it does not get a big curriculum. So it is a way of integrating this younger generation into these tasks of supervision. And because our academic, I don't know about other countries, our academic staff is getting quite to an age of quite old, not old, but older than it used to be. And we need younger people to be taken on board of the supervision of this new generation with newer ideas, with more enthusiasm. Not that the older ones like myself are not enthusiastic, it's not that, but we do need new people to be leading on the research, because it brings innovation, it brings enthusiasm, and it also engages to another level the PhD students. I don't know if I answered, because I did not quite understand the question, or if it was just a comment.
Cristina?
It is muted, so I don't know whether.
Okay, thank you. I think if she will have more questions, she will come back. And I see that Artashes, no, it's Konstantin Yenokian has a comment. Dr. Yenokian, do you want to still make your comment?
Microphone.
Could you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, Tatevik. Hi, everyone again. Just again, one matter to be clarified is as a continuation of Professor Tatevosan discussion. Again, with issue I raised the day before yesterday when we structurized the PhD and try to understand, is there any specific financial requirements and for PhD entrance, and are there any specific financial management when someone enters to the PhD? But as I understand again from the colleague's speech, you don't have a specific PhD budget. It's all on the budget of the supervisor and professor. And if, for example, I launch the PhD position as an open position, I need to have before the financial support. Because Dr. Tatevosan raised the question in this manner to understand how to try to find a financial support for that. But at the same time, I want to understand one issue. When our PhD students try to find a position abroad and got a PhD, in a lot of cases, they have a responses like, okay, you are welcome, I can find a position for you in my group and probably to find the money for a research. But please, find a specific fellowship for your stay in the country, for your sustainability, and so on. So, indirectly, I understood that it's not so clear as you say, that everything is on professor and he has to find the money, because based on the Salzburg Principles, as it is very basic and classic, I want to understand finally what is the structure for, what is the financial based structure for entrance, because otherwise we couldn't speak about a preparation of specialists for the field. Okay, we can say, let's go, how it's going now in a lot of cases. We take the PhD student just to take it, and everything is based on how the professor will find the money in line with the project, how he will try to have a small salary, in which time it is from September for sure, based on government decision, it's now a little bit more in comparison with the past. But anyway, it's there is no clear financial management policy for that. And I think it's very important. So if someone can add added value from this point, I will be really very grateful for that, to understand how it's structured.
Who is willing to answer from our panelists? We have just 10 more minutes. We do not have too much time anymore.
Say something.
Sure, please.
Well, when you, just very briefly, and I know from the experience of Portugal, it is in fact very much on the professor, but it's not only that. The research center always have, at least for us, some seed money, and the financing in Portugal is structured in a way that if you have finished a PhD, say 3 years ago, you can apply for a research project. We have that. So you can be really young and already, or starting a career, and you apply for your project. And if you are within a research group, because if you have a research contract as a postdoc or after your level at the research center, it means that you are doing some work and you have money for that. So probably if you are within the area that the research center is wanting to go, you're going to get some seed money for that. If you show that you are really good that you publish. So it's not that it is only when you already have a very big bulk of money, even if it's a research that needs money. Depends, of course, on each country, but at least I'm talking from Portugal or from our institution, you do get ways of having some money so you can say, and every time you want to apply for or you want to go to one of these individual grants, before you apply for the individual grants to our national foundation, you have to show this at the university level. So there is a scientific council who says, yes, we support that. We know the person does not have, if it's a younger person or whatever, does not have the money right now, but we are very interested in this area. So we'll say, yes, go for it. If you do get the money for your PhD, we'll give you some support initially. So I'm in many situations, this is treated tailored based. It depends on what you are proposing. So I cannot talk from the other countries, but in Portugal, Cristina agrees with me for sure. It is like that. So
can I add? It is very similar in Lithuania, but sometimes we develop some project together, supervisor and doctorand, and do you know, it is possible to apply to national or international foundation, and we have agency, innovation and technology, and so on. It is a lot of ways.
For France, it's totally the same.
Thank you. I see that we are running out of the time, but Tatevik, you have a question. Do you still want to ask your question to Pittia, Dr. Pittia? Tatevik Ohanyan? Tatevik, are you there? Okay, I will ask. I will read the question.
I'm just saying that we're running out of time, so I will discuss this later with Dr. Pittia.
Okay, thank you to all panelists. It was a great discussion together with you, and I hope next time we will have a discussion face to face, not via the computer or online. And thank you, Tatevik, for organization. I'm giving the floor to you.
Thank you very much. before I continue, I just want to share the project website and use this background when thanking all the partners for participation. First of all, I want to thank the EU partners for the tremendous efforts that you put and you made this training a reality. I do understand that most of you are institutional managers, and during this lockdown, during this state of emergency, you had to come up with a number of strategic decisions for your institution, and despite of this, you did find time to develop the training packages to get ready for this 3 days. Thank you very much for all your efforts to our EU partners. I also thank the Armenian partners for analyzing the situation in Armenia and helping us to draft the synopsis for the country to understand the current challenges and current reality of doctoral education in Armenia, which is actually the basis for further reforms in the country. Thank you to our Armenian partners also. I would like also to thank all the stakeholders. Yesterday we were observing the list of participants of these 3-day sessions, and we noticed that not only researchers and lecturers from various universities and research institutions took part in the trainings, but also PhD students, representative of industry representatives. This is really very important because the reform should be participative, and we're going to make this reform as much engaging, as much participative as possible. We will have a number of discussions during this upcoming 3 years. Thank you for joining us. I would be actually, it would be great if the PhD students that joined us during these 3 days could be much more active with their questions, because this reform is actually for you. And I informed that all the presentations and training packages are already uploaded on the project website here in the outcome sections. You may find it, and I hope that it will be used afterwards on institutional and national levels. Again, thank you all for making this training a reality and not for delaying implementing it as it was planned during our coordination meeting. I would like to give the floor to the co-leader of the ARMDOCT project and the Vice Rector of French University of Armenia, Jean-Moulin, for concluding. And afterwards, I would like to ask the external expert of the quality assurance expert of the project, Radovan Stajonovic, to address comments and remarks and critique. Actually, we're going to learn from your critique to improve the project and to improve the outcomes. The platform is yours, Dr. Navoyan, and afterwards I would like Dr. Radovan to comment and critique. Thank you.
Thank you, dear Arevik. I will be extremely brief because in the end of this panel, is this just to share with my pleasure that we have these 3 days with our panelists, with our speakers, and thank you for your contribution to the success of our project. It's really very appreciated, and also to make a hope that the sanitary situation will allow us to meet in person in next autumn and see how you can further realize our project activities. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Dr. Radovan, are you here?
Yes, do you hear me, yes?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. I really was, let's to say, honored to follow your 3-day workshop because I heard many good things, many good experiences from different countries. We had here, let's to say, 2 different models of doctoral educations. One was from the east part, from Armenia and other countries and so on, former Soviet Union model, and the second one was from, let's to say, West countries, but mainly, let's to say, Roman types of education of West countries. So we didn't have some examples of Anglo-Saxonian model because we had here Italian, French, and Portugal system. It's in some respect different than Anglo-Saxonian system and the US system and in education and doctoral and so on. And we didn't have opportunity to have, let's to say, these oversee approaches in doctoral education. That is also very important for us. But I had very detailed discussions from all the speakers. All the speakers were very well prepared. They came, let's to say, from a real university, dealing with a real student, and that I was very satisfied that had real problems that we need to deal with professionals in doctoral education. What it means, doctoral education is not only problem of supervising, mainly a bigger problem with administrative, professional support, and so on and so on. And one of my proposal is that you should to have at your universities at least centers for doctoral studies, because if you see at your universities, I'm sure that is only one person in duty for doctoral studies from administrative point of view and doing it like some side job in many universities. That means that university should to have the Center for Doctoral Studies, professional support for doctoral studies, and to doctoral studies to be one regular department of each university. Then, from my point of view, I should to add to think about, let's to say, today a new concept in doctoral education, not supervisor-based doctoral education. It's the doctoral education based on the doctoral schools. Through the presentation, I found some elements of doctoral schools, but the new approach is to have doctoral school, like undergraduate school, like graduate school, also doctoral school, one school that is caring about doctoral students and so on and so on. This is one, let's to say, now approach that I know that there is some doctoral schools in these German-speaking areas. In Vienna, you have, as an example, 10 doctoral schools and so on and so on, and they did also this model. But it's, in fact, it's not a matter of your product. Your product is related to the cooperation with industry. And now cooperation with industry is a complex problem, not an easy problem. It's easy for the project because you will not deal with accreditation. That you deal with accreditation, your project will suffer of many problems. Because if you need to accreditate any program in any country, it's very traumatic job. Then you are on the right way to have good projects, to have relaxed projects, and to give some outcomes that I see here, legal frameworks, some training packages, some trained staff, and so on and so on. From my point of view, you can give only legal recommendations. You cannot influence on a legal framework for cooperation with industry, because it's, as I told you, it's a really very complex problem depending from the country to country, because now the cooperation with industry is moda, let's to say fashion. Each university wants to cooperate with industry. They have different models and so on and so on. At the end, industry is not interesting for PhD studies from one main reason, because they do not have any less to say subventions for dealing with industry. The principle is very simple. If the government, if the decision makers give to industry that they are free, as example, of taxes dealing with PhD students, then you will see at each corner will be industry dealing with the students. I cannot imagine that all over the Europe, all over these countries, if you are doing, as example, with tourism, you have a lot of taxes. If you are doing with other fields, you have low taxes. But if you are doing with education of PhD, or you are employing PhD in your company, you do not have any restriction of the taxes. It's from my point of view, very simple to solve, but is not up to us. It's up to decision maker. But do not exist some unique receipt for cooperation with industry. From my opinion, my research that I did in this field, because I did many research in this field, cooperation with industry, you should be a bit surprised that the main impact of these students that are doing PhD are side effects, add value effects. The first, the effect of transferable and soft skills, because from my point of view, the curricula of PhD students should to consist at least 30% of transferable and soft skills courses. Then these sustainable skills, what it means, today our very modern PhD studies is in sustainable development. What it means, some interdisciplinary PhD studies. We do not need narrow PhD student, because narrow PhD students will wait for his job, will wait for your position. We will stay in some laboratory and wait that you will be retired and so on, and will be production for itself, nothing else. But these interdisciplinary students with these soft transferable skills, they are finding the jobs, doing some initiatives, and so on and so on. Then every penny or every money invested in some PhD students are returning by factor 5. What it means? If you now invest in some PhD student from industry, from other countries, and so on, these students will use these transferable skills, these social skills, to do tomorrow a big job. Can you imagine that one PhD student's cost about 50,000 euro for 5 years of 4 years of PhD studying? Do you know that by some research, these PhD students is returning to this country and institution million euros? How? Making good connections, especially if it is coming from outside. That is one type of academic diplomacy. In PhD education is very important academic diplomacy. We do not have it now in Bologna process seen, recognized. But you know, all the countries know that the former foreign students, even in Armenia, even in other countries, Lithuania, brought to these countries millions of euros. For what? For some peanuts scholarship that they received. That is one thing that I want to point. The second thing I want to point is a local identity, local language, local behavioral that should be embedded in this student. For me, it's not important this student to come if it's from outside, and all we are fighting to bring the students from outside, because we have this PhD drain in each country. Why someone will now study PhD in Armenia if he has opportunity to get scholarship and to go in Portugal, as example? I do not see any reason. But if we attract the foreign students, then these foreign students should to learn our language. Language requirement is for me very one obligatory for PhD students. Come in Armenia, learn Armenian language, then you will learn the culture, then we will learn the behavior of these people, then you will return to Armenia. It's on the very good way, and so important for this. I only want to point that those cooperation with industry is a complex problem. It is not only cooperation with industry. We are usually saying academia-industry cooperation, but it's not. It's academia, wider society cooperation. Industry is tourism. Industry is languages. Industry is the culture. And these students should to be involved in all these process. Then I expect from your recommendation to give some, let's to say, novel models of proposing some sustainable PhD studies. To do not have the process like we have now, that I only have the students from internal purposes of university, because to be assistants, that they are doing, let's to say, some hyper publishing, doing some, let's to say, paper machines, nothing else. Then we promote them in academic titles. They again start to learn their pupils on the same way. From me, there are two main, let's to say, pillars in doctoral education. The first one, to provide open mind of the next leaders, because it's the future teacher. You should to be, first of all, open mind person. And the second one is to support sustainable development of the community, because these open mind leaders, this professor will the help of high-tech community of the country. That's one, let's to say, vision of modern doctoral education. Not like now, really speak about some open problems. There are many studies around that the modern slaves are PhD students. What means modern slaves? They should to have their syndicate. What it means? All over from USA, up to the Japan, up to the UK, up to the Italy, up to the Portugal, up to the German, the supervisors using the students like machines. The PhD student is coming, writing proposal, taking the project, implementing all the reports about this project, in order to get the grant to survive. And it's doing good. Countries like USA, German, and so on are in better position because they can attract Chinese and Indians to come in their laboratory and for drinking coffee and be in USA and enjoying the culture and environment of USA to produce as much as possible projects, publications, and so on. And they become very competent only from one side. In order to survive, they got very good sustainable skills, transferable skills, and become very good expert, and it will help them for tomorrow. But is it in agenda of our, let's to say, some principal development nature? It's not. If someone, even me, I was a PhD student outside, and I am helpful all the life to my supervisor that used me like project machine and projects and so on, and I learned everything. I become really expert in order to survive. That's the case all around that we have. But knowing ARAIC, knowing this Euro-Asia University, it's very symbolic that Euro-Asia University has such project. Not only from, you should to implement, to propose, be free to propose some model that will work, Sometimes all the countries, if you see statistics and so on, have more PhD supervisors and courses than PhD students. As example, you had in all universities, we had many departments that have committee of 10 members for PhD studies, and in fact, they only have 3 PhD students. Have you seen such universities, many around? Why not now to make some optimal models, some PhD school that is of interdisciplinary on the level of university, to use better resources, not to have each department to have its own PhD studies. Then I will encourage you to make, let's to say, good review of the previous models, of the statistics, of the good and bad experience, to do some SWOT analysis of your system in your country, and try to, using this SWOT analysis, to answer really what is the problem from international level. From international level, we have great support. We had really good models from French, from Portugal, good speakers that from Italy that helped us, and we are forced by international level. And what we did is because of the international level. What we have of the national level? We have the problems of national level. Why do not speak about possible problems and about the ways to overcome this problem? If you come on the institutional level, from national level, the problems are, let's say, more let's to say, intensive, and we should to solve it from bottom-up principle or up to down principle. I am not sure. Sometimes if you have good Ministry of Education, if you have some open mind minister will help more than many projects and many discussions on this topic. But I see role of your project to using your experience to honestly propose guidelines, frameworks, your suggestions to ministry and to walls, how it will look and please use this approach. Give your recommendation to institutional level, from the level of committee for each department, PhD committee, to the Senate of your university recommendation. Give to ministries and so on, and try through the dissemination to extend your idea on international level. I will not bore you too much because it's really one never-ending topic, and that I heard from you was one very honest discussions. All speakers were very competent, and it's one good start of this project. And I see now that this project is very well established. Never seen such many people that are following. Never seen such good management like we have from Eurasia University, by the help of the French University of Armenia. You are very capable, you are very good team, and you can give contribution to doctoral education in this Euro-Asia model and field. Thank you too much.
Thank you very much for the speech. And actually the project is already not ours. We have ownership from all the partners, and it's really very valuable. With a very final and short remark, I see that Dr. Targamadze has a remark, and afterwards we need to break for 30 minutes because afterwards we have a coordination meeting. Dr. Targamadze, you have a note?
Okay, thank you. Thank you for presentation, and I have few remarks. I am agree that interdisciplinary studies have a perspective, but now there is problem with requirements. I have experience neurobiology, psychology, and education, and what criteria about evaluation? There are very specific. Be careful. And I understand that we need to think global and we need to act local. It is a lot of gaps, and we need to think about our country, own country, and about language. For foreign students, we are teaching in English and any problems. If you have 1 or 2 students, you can participate in English too. Any problems? Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we will finish the meeting with a very strange thing. We need to, actually we do not need to, but there is in every Erasmus Plus project at the end we're having a photo with all the participants. So I suggest to have a Zoom photo. Whoever is online and whoever, if it is actually convenient for you, please turn on your videos and Mariam and Armine will screenshot. We will be sharing this photo with all of you, remembering these trainings and these 3 days. Wow, there are some people we didn't see during these 2 days, but they were here with us, and it's great to see videos on. Wow, great, thank you. Thank you. Girls, I think in one window we cannot see everybody, so please make sure to screenshot 3 different windows. In my screen, it shows 3 different windows.
Actually, there are 4.
4 in my screen, it's 3, so make sure to screenshot.
Free screens, it is okay, but free face, it is bad.
Thank you.